Alcohol isn't what you've been led to believe. It's not a harmless social lubricant or a well-earned reward after a long day. It's not just about relaxation, fun, or a way to celebrate. At its core, alcohol is a spiritual sedativa, silent weapon wrapped in the velvet glove of tradition, marketing, and cultural rituals. It's a substance that numbs more than just your body. It dampens your intuition, lowers your energetic defenses, and quietly distances you from your truest self. The deception runs deep. From a young age, you were taught to see alcohol as normal, even sophisticated. The programming is so pervasive that you rarely question it. But underneath the surface, smiles, clinking glasses, and festive rituals lies a more unsettling reality. Alcohol alters your frequency. And this isn't a lecture on health or morality. This is a revelation about something older, something hidden, something profoundly spiritual that most seekers will never be told. Long before alcohol appeared at dinner tables or weekend parties, it held a very different purpose. Ancient alchemists, mystics, and initiates understood its true nature. The word alcohol traces back to the Arabic al-kul, referring initially to a fine black powder used for the eyes. But in alchemical terms, it came to symbolize the process of distillation, of extracting the spirit from matter. It was both literal and symbolic, separating essence from form. That's why we call alcoholic drinks spirits to this day. Not merely a metaphor. It's a linguistic echo of that forgotten knowledge. Alcohol, when consumed with sacred intention, was a tool of transformation. It was used in rituals, initiations, and sacred rites, never for casual indulgence. Only those trained to work within altered states were allowed to engage with it. Why? Because misuse could unbind the self from its higher centers, sever your grounding, and open unseen energetic portals that may never fully close. Modern society stripped alcohol of its sacred context. What once was feared and revered is now poured freely, glamorized, and sold as sophistication in a bottle. But the energetic essence of alcohol remains unchanged. It is still a volatile substance, capable of manipulating the soul, and most dangerously, it does so without your awareness, respect, or spiritual protection. Every sip alters your energetic field, fractures your alignment, and weakens your spiritual defenses. The danger isn't just in what alcohol does to your liver or your mind. It's in what it does to your field, that subtle energetic architecture that holds your intuition, clarity, and higher guidance. Your aura isn't just mystical poetry. It's a real vibrational shield, a system of energy that protects and connects you to truth. When that system fractures, you become susceptible to thought forms, parasitic influences, and foreign energies that would normally bounce right off. Alcohol creates micro-tears in your field. These aren't visible, but their effects are felt. Your intuition dulls, your clarity fogs, your reactions become less grounded. Your root chakrati to physical pleasure and survival may feel overstimulated. You feel more physical, more impulsive. Meanwhile, your crown chakra, your bridge to divine consciousness, dims. You feel disconnected from your soul. The cultural illusion is that drinking makes you more yourself, more social, more open, more confident. But this is the counterfeit version of connection. You're not more yourself. You're less defended. Your boundaries are lowered. Your discernment is muted. The exposure feels freeing in the moment, but it opens you to energies and influences you would otherwise block. And over time, this state of subtle vulnerability becomes your new normal. This is why you wake up feeling scattered, drained, or spiritually off, even when you don't have a hangover. It's not just dehydration or brain fog. It's the lingering imprint of energetic erosion. You mistake this erosion for who you are, but it's not you. It's the cumulative effect of disconnection. You start to believe you need alcohol to feel alive, confident, connected. But alcohol isn't creating those qualities. It's temporarily suppressing the noise that blocks the mind, then creating even more noise of its own. The longer you rely on it, the harder it becomes to remember what true alignment feels like. Alcohol doesn't connect you to your higher self. It detaches you. Most spiritual traditions warned against intoxication not out of prudishness, but as a safeguard. In Buddhism, intoxicants cloud awareness, and awareness is the path to liberation. In Taoism, they disrupt your harmony with the Tao. In Christianity, intoxication is seen as a surrender of spiritual vigilance. In Islam, it's haram, not for punishment, but for protection of the soul. And in alchemical traditions, distillation was a sacred process. Alcohol was to be respected, not consumed casually, without intention and sacred discipline. It becomes a solvent that dissolves your spiritual integrity. But modern culture discarded the wisdom. We kept the celebrations, the aesthetics, the rituals. We lost the meaning. We drink not to connect, but to disconnect, not to awaken, but to numb. And we mistake that numbness for freedom. You weren't born craving alcohol. That urge was trained into you through family gatherings, media portrayals, advertising, and social conditioning. Alcohol was presented as a rite of passage, a symbol of adulthood, a bridge to connection. The messaging was everywhere. The charismatic movie hero with a whiskey in hand, the romantic dinner with wine, the commercial that sells alcohol as adventure, status, belonging. But this was never about freedom. It was about compliance. You were sold the illusion of choice. But that choice was implanted long before you ever held a glass. The result? You formed emotional associations around alcohol so deep that joy, grief, celebration, and stress became incomplete without it. The culture wove alcohol into every corner of your emotional landscape. You didn't just drink to feel good. You drank to feel anything at all. But alcohol doesn't give you access to your authentic self. It exposes you to layers of your psyche that you've been trained to avoid. And in doing so, it tricks you. You think the drink made you confident, but it simply lowered the wall between your true self and your wounded self. You were never broken. You were taught to run from your discomfort instead of listening to it. That discomfort, the anxiety, the emotional tension, the restlessness is not your enemy. It's your guide. Every drink that numbs those signals delays your growth. Alcohol is not the source of your confidence, creativity, or connection. It's the mask you wear when you forget you already have those things within you. The most insidious lie of alcohol is that it offers relief, but it's a false peace. A temporary escape from the discomfort of meeting yourself. And every time you reach for that shortcut, you reinforce the belief that you need something outside of yourself to feel whole. But the truth, you don't. You never did. Most people only think of alcohol's effects in terms of physical symptoms. Slurred speech, clumsiness, or memory lapses. But beneath the surface of your body lies something far more subtle and far more sacred. Your energetic field, your aura, your light body. The vibrational shield that protects your soul and serves as the interface between your spiritual self and the physical world. You are not just flesh and thought. You are frequency. You are energy in motion, interacting with the world in every moment, taking in vibrations and emitting them in return. And alcohol, far from being a benign indulgence, disrupts that entire system. It begins subtly. Every drink disturbs the coherence of your energy field, not in an explosive or dramatic way, but like small tears in a fabric barely visible, yet devastating over time. These microfractures weaken your energetic integrity. Your boundaries become porous. Energies that should bounce off your field begin to slip in. You don't see it, so you don't question it, but you feel it. That lingering sense of being off, the unexplained mood swings, the sluggishness in your soul, the creeping sense of disconnection that no amount of sleep or hydration seems to fix. That is not just hangover. That is spiritual erosion. This is where most people stop looking. They try supplements, better sleep, maybe more yoga, but they rarely consider the root. Their energy field is compromised. And one of the primary culprits celebrated, normalized, defendedis, alcohol. One of the first signs of this energetic weakening is a dulling of your intuition. That inner compass that whispers when something is right or wrong, safe or dangerous, aligned or out of tune, becomes harder to hear. You second-guess yourself more often. Your inner no becomes a hesitant, maybe. You get swept into situations you wouldn't normally entertain. And you start living reactively, instead of intentionally. Even worse, you mistake that fog for your identity. You start saying, I'm just indecisive, or I'm just not intuitive like other people. But none of that is true. You've simply lost signal. Alcohol didn't make you someone new, it disconnected you from who you always were. And the disconnection isn't uniform. Your energy system isn't one monolith, it's a symphony of centers, all vibrating with their own purpose. When you drink, these centers get thrown out of harmony. Your root chakra becomes overstimulated. You feel more grounded in the physical world, but not in a balanced way. You crave pleasure, comfort, indulgence. You become reactive to your environment, impulsive, even aggressive. Meanwhile, your heart begins to misfire. You may feel artificially more open, but that openness is exposure, not connection. You're not expanding with divine love. You're leaking. You take on emotions that aren't yours. You mistake emotional chaos for vulnerability. And your crown chakra, your gateway to higher consciousness, becomes the most dulled of all. The access point to your divine truth is fogged over. The pipeline from source to self slows to a drip. You feel alive in your body, but dead to your soul. This is the trade. Alcohol offers you the illusion of connection in exchange for your clarity. It gives you momentary relief, but slowly steals your alignment. And because this erosion happens so gradually, you think it's just who you are, that this version of you is permanent. But it's not. It's who you became under the influence of disconnection. Even when the physical effects wear off, the energetic ones linger. Meditation feels harder. Your dreams become blurry or chaotic. You struggle to stay still or feel inspired. These are not personality flaws. They are symptoms of an energetic field still carrying the residue of spiritual sedation. Worse yet, you start to believe the myth that alcohol is the key to your creativity, your freedom, your connection. But it's not. It's only ever been the silencer of your true self. What you glimpse during intoxication, the laughter, the confidence, the freedom isn't alcohol's gift. It's your essence peeking out, briefly unguarded. But instead of learning to access that part of yourself through presence, healing, and discipline, you reach for the bottle, and the cycle deepens. That cycle isn't just psychological, it's spiritual, because alcohol doesn't just alter your chemistry, it opens doors, and not all of those doors should be opened. When your field weakens, when your vibration drops, when your discernment dulls, you become susceptible to influences you'd normally never entertain. Thought forms, emotional imprints, parasitic energy saw things most people were never taught to protect against, can now enter your space. And because you weren't taught to perceive them, you never realize they're there. You just feel heavier, less motivated, more anxious, more self-critical. Your life feels harder, and you don't know why. You think it's your job, your partner, your body, but often it's energetic clutter you absorbed during moments of spiritual exposure. These energies aren't always dramatic. Sometimes they're just whispers nudging you to keep drinking, to stay in that familiar fog, to resist clarity. They thrive on your lowered vibration, and the longer you stay unaware, the more they embed. You don't need to believe in spirits or entities for this to be true. Just as gravity doesn't require your belief to work, energetic laws operate regardless of awareness. And that's what makes alcohol so dangerous, because it operates below your radar until you realize you've drifted far from where you began. And you can't remember how you got there. But here's the deeper truth. You were never weak for drinking. You were conditioned to drink. From childhood, the programming began. Alcohol was presented as the adult thing to do, the celebratory drink, the reward, the sexy indulgence. You saw it in movies, in family parties, in advertising, in every social script you absorbed. It was never about your freedom. It was about conformity wrapped in the illusion of choice. And the system that sold you this illusion is the same system that profits from your disconnection. Because when you're disconnected, you're easy to sell to. You're easier to control. You're more likely to consume endlessly, looking for something you lost but can't name. You chase experiences, products, people, anything to feel whole again. But the wholeness was never outside of you. It was buried under layers of sedatives, distractions, and silence. When you strip all of that away, when you stop numbing, something miraculous happens. Your field begins to repair. Your clarity returns. The voice of your intuition gets louder. You realize how many of your past decisions weren't really you. They were echoes of a disconnected state. And in that realization, your true journey begins. The good news is this: the damage alcohol causes to your energetic system isn't final. Your soul was never broken, it was simply buried under layers of numbness. And just as energy can be fragmented, it can also be restored. The path home is not about punishment. It's about reconnection, about remembering who you were before the noise. The first step is presence. Simple, steady, unfiltered presence. Not the kind that's forced through spiritual performance or rigid discipline, but the kind that arises when you allow yourself to feel again, even when what you feel is uncomfortable. Discomfort, after all, is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a signal that something is waking up, that your body, your mind, your energy field is learning to operate again without sedation. Presence is uncomfortable at first, because you're meeting all the parts of yourself that alcohol used to silence the anxiety, the fear, the buried emotions. But those aren't problems. They're messengers. And when you stop muting them, they begin to deliver the truth you've long been avoiding. That truth isn't scary. It's liberating. You begin to see where you've been out of alignment, where your energy has been leaking, where you've been betraying your own inner guidance. And once you see it, you can begin to shift it. This is where your spiritual hygiene becomes sacred. Meditation isn't just a wellness practice, it's your gateway back to clarity. Not because it makes your thoughts disappear, but because it reintroduces you to yourself without filters. When you sit with your breath, your awareness strengthens. You learn to create space between your thoughts and your reactions. Over time, the noise settles not because you suppressed it, but because you've integrated it. You start to trust your own presence again. Your nervous system learns to feel safe without the crutch of alcohol. And in that safety, your field begins to repair. Breathwork is a powerful ally here. It teaches your body how to process what alcohol used to mute. Where alcohol numbed your stress, breathwork releases it. Each conscious breath tells your system, you are safe now. You don't have to run. That message alone is revolutionary in a world that's taught you to flee your own feelings. But healing isn't only internal. Your energy field responds to external support too. Modalities like Reiki, sound healing, and energy clearing aren't abstract rituals. They are tools that operate on the frequencies alcohol once disrupted. They help retune your aura, seal the leaks, and clear residual energies that attach to you during moments of disconnection. As your field strengthens, you begin to notice things you didn't before. You feel when someone's energy is off. You sense when a room isn't right for you. You pick up on the subtle cues of truth and falsity in conversation, in opportunity, in relationship. This isn't paranoia. It's discernment. It's your original wiring coming back online. Yoga, too, becomes more than exercise. It becomes a way of returning to sacred embodiment. Alcohol disconnected you from your body either by making it feel numb or by making you live purely in its cravings. But yoga reconnects you. Through movement and breath, you learn to inhabit your form again, to live inside your skin without needing to escape it. You move not to look good, but to listen. Every stretch, every hold, every breath becomes a conversation with the part of you that was silenced. And as that dialogue returns, so does your power. Nature is perhaps the most underestimated force in this journey. When you spend time in forests, by rivers, under open sky, you recalibrate. These spaces vibrate with the same frequency your body was designed to resonate with. They remind you what calm actually feels, like not the artificial calm of intoxication, but the organic, cellular peace of coherence. When you sit under a tree or walk barefoot on the earth, you're not just relaxing, you're repairing. The earth speaks in silence, and your field listens. The longer you spend in her presence, the more your system reattunes to the rhythm that alcohol once disrupted. And above all, what empowers this process more than anything is intention. Intention is the tuning fork of energy. When you set the intention to reclaim your clarity, to remember your truth, to heal your field, everything begins to shift. You start attracting what you need. The people, the tools, the teachings. Synchronicities increase. Clarity returns. Resistance softens, not because life becomes perfect, but because you're no longer at war with your own energy. You stop abandoning yourself when discomfort arises. You learn to sit in the fire without flinching, and in doing so, you burn away the lies you were told about who you are. You were never weak. You were never too emotional, too sensitive, too confused. You were simply disconnected from your field. And the moment you begin to reclaim it, you realize how powerful you truly are. And here's the most miraculous part. The version of you that alcohol pretended to unlock, that confident, expressive, alive version, was never behind a bottle. It was buried beneath fear, beneath trauma, beneath social conditioning. But it was always there. What alcohol gave you was a counterfeit glimpse, a shortcut, a bypass. It removed the filter briefly, but then covered your light in even thicker fog. But now you've chosen the real path, the longer road. Yes, but the only one that leads to lasting sovereignty. And what is sovereignty? It is the ability to be fully present in your body, your emotions, your energy, and your truth without needing to escape, mute, or alter any part of it. It is the ability to stand in a room, feel everything, and still remain centered. It is the ability to say no without guilt, Yes, without people-pleasing. And I don't know, without shame. It is the knowing that you are enough, not because someone said so. Not because a drink made you feel it, but because you remembered. This is your birthright. This is your natural state. And the moment you stop reaching for what disconnects you, it begins to return. Once you begin the journey back to your clear self, your sober, sovereign self, something changes that goes far beyond personal healing. You start to see, truly see, not just yourself, but the world around you. You see how deeply society is built on escape, how nearly every cultural ritual, from celebration to grieving, from dating to networking, revolves around some form of intoxication. You see how often people gather not to connect, but to avoid the loneliness that silence would reveal. And suddenly, your refusal to numb becomes more than a lifestyle choice. It becomes an act of rebellion, a quiet revolution, a refusal to comply with a culture that profits from your disconnection. You begin to walk differently through the world, not with arrogance, not with moral superiority, but with clarity. You see through the haze, through the lies, through the glittering promises of marketing campaigns designed to sell you pieces of yourself you never truly lost. You no longer crave the quick high. You no longer chase the version of you that alcohol offered because you've met the real version. The lasting one. The version who laughs without insecurity, who dances without permission, who speaks without apology, who cries when she needs to, who holds sacred space for her own emotions, who doesn't need a drink to feel joy or love or freedom. And this version of you, she's magnetic. Not because she tries to be, but because presence is rare. Presence is powerful. Présence changes people. When you sit across from someone and give them your full attention, sober, awake, clear, they feel it. They may not know why, but they soften, they exhale, because your energy is a mirror. And in that mirror, they catch a glimpse of their own clarity too. This is how your personal healing becomes collective medicine. Every time you choose presence over numbness, you make it easier for others to do the same. Every time you choose to sit with discomfort instead of silencing it, you show others that they can survive their own pain. Every time you say no to the illusion of escape, you say yes to a deeper truth that can ripple through your family, your community, your lineage. And that ripple matters, because we live in a time where sovereignty is under siege, where distraction is disguised as freedom, where performance is mistaken for connection, where sedation is sold as self-care. But your clarity threatens all of that. When you are clear, you cannot be manipulated. You cannot be sold products to fix a self that you know isn't broken. You cannot be pulled into relationships, habits, or systems that drain you because you feel the misalignment in your body and your soul. This is why awakening is rarely celebrated. Because a sovereign person is not profitable. A sober mind is not easily controlled. A heart that listens to truth rather than trends cannot be seduced by manufactured desire. You become dangerous to the system not because you fight it with force, but because you live in truth. And truth is contagious. Yes, the path will feel lonely at times. You may lose friends. You may be misunderstood. There may be moments when you wonder if it's worth it when the old patterns call to you. Soft and familiar, offering you the warm comfort of forgetting. But every time you return to yourself, something strengthens. Your field holds stronger. Your intuition sings louder. Your path becomes clearer. And over time, the noise loses its grip. You realize that true connection was never in the drink. It was in the courage to show up unguarded, to feel everything, to speak honestly, to love without armor, and most importantly, to be with yourself, fully and without distraction. That's the connection you've been chasing all along. The connection alcohol pretended to offer but could never sustain. The connection that arises when you stand in your full light and say, I don't need anything outside of me to feel whole. I remember who I am. And if you've come this far, this isn't coincidence, it's alignment. You've already begun the journey. And if your soul is asking for deeper truths, for the tools to protect and strengthen your energy, for teachings that were kept hidden, then now is the time. Join us at Insights Academy, our free sacred newsletter where we share the truths most fear to speak. Click the link below and receive your free copy of the Kybalion, the ancient text of Hermetic wisdom. You were never broken. You were simply waiting to remember. Welcome home.